Okay, howdy everybody. Thanks for joining. Also, big thanks to Gabor for organizing this event and bringing everyone here together. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Erik Puro, and I'm from Finland. So you can see behind me we have the Northern Lights going quite well. And I'm from a company called, let's see, Kappa Mushrooms. So we're a mushroom company that's based here in Finland, where we do a lot of our own mushroom growing and extraction and product creation and things like this. And today I just want to talk to you a little bit more about how we can improve our health through fungi and what different kind of biohacks are available for fungi. So let me go ahead and open up my screen here. Okay, I think you should be able to see this. Okay. One second, looks like that is the last page. Let's go ahead and start at the start. Okay, so we've got a pretty exciting, let's say, hour-ish for you. I'm going to go pretty much in depth about fungi and their help for our bodies, as well as how to purchase good products, what to look for in the marketplace, pretty much everything you can think about fungi. Please, you'll learn here. And any questions, anything that comes up, you can find me on Instagram at ErikMTPuro or at Kappa Mushrooms. And reach out to us, ask us any questions you have. We're happy to discuss further anything at all. So basically, we're going to talk about how to optimize your health with fungi. So what are adaptogenic mushrooms for your mind and body? So a little bit about us and the mushroom industry in general. So just quickly run through why are there mushrooms everywhere? Why are mushrooms in all the products? Why is there mushroom coffee and teas and everything out in the world? So just a little bit about the market. So in the US market, it's the second fastest growing category of food supplements and nutraceuticals and fourth largest by sales. So it's, let's say, growing a lot right now. And in our opinion, if a alien from outer space came down to the planet Earth and said, hey, where do we want to grow mushrooms and how are we going to do that in the best way possible? We strongly believe that they would choose Finland, as there's an abundance of birch wood, which is grown very sustainably and naturally. In Finland, we have the largest forest of organic certified forest in the world. So that's quite nice for a country only of 5.5 million people. And the cleanest water and air ever measured on the planet is basically here from Finland. So that's also a good point. And as these mushrooms are bioaccumulators, meaning that they are eating this birchwood and taking in all the nutrition from it, that's a great thing. But if the wood is a bit toxic or if there's problems in the nature, then those will be in the mushrooms as well. So Finland is a very clean place and healthy place to do that. What do we do uniquely? So for us, it's mainly focusing on the raw material that we source. So how can we have really good quality food for the mushrooms to eat from the start? And then how do we ensure that our extraction technology is going to make the compounds that these mushrooms are producing from eating that food the most bioavailable for our bodies? And that's where our company comes in, utilizing latest scientific research and evidence to ensure that what we do at Kappa is the best. So I'm on the executive committee of the International Medicinal Mushroom Society, and that gives us access to all the latest research that's getting out on the market. For this, we won the NutraIngredients Award last year for a startup. This is the trade publication basically for the nutraceutical and food supplement industry. So this is actually a real honor for us. We're really excited about that. And it just goes to show that what we decided was important, also some industry folks thinks is important as well. A little bit about traceability. So what's important is in this day and age, we don't tend to trust food brands anymore. for very good reasons. I think the Krafts and the Kellogg's and the Nestle's of the world have done a lot of harm to our credibility and our trust in them just listening to what they say is good. Yeah. And at Kappa, we're a strong believer that being as open and transparent with our customers as humanly possible is how we develop that trust. And it's why our company has been successful for 5 years now. And we have most of our customers are repeat purchasing every month. So for us, traceability is very important, to be honest with you about how we do things. For our process, we control everything what we call from spore to extract. So we have our own mycological laboratory here in our headquarters. We do a lot of our own mushroom production. And then we also do our own quality control. We have our own quality control laboratory as well. And then drying, extraction, freeze drying, and final products. So we're pretty much in control and making sure that each step of the process is done in the most beautiful way possible. Okay, now about not so much about our company, but just in general, if you're going, okay, mushroom products sound interesting, how do I choose a good quality product? Well, one thing you want to look for is how those mushrooms are extracted. So if you were to go to the market and buy shiitake, for instance, because you hear me talking about how good shiitake is and you want to eat that in your diet, that's a great choice. Please do that. But the problem is you won't be extracting a lot of those medicinal compounds, which I'm speaking about, due to the fact that just cooking shiitake doesn't really give you the bioavailable compounds. So it doesn't open up those cell walls. So if you look here at this picture on the right, those compounds are actually hidden deep in the cell behind what's called a chitin cell wall. And that chitin cell wall is very strong. So if we think about a plant, they have these cellulose-based cell walls that are actually pretty easy to open up. So all of us know that we eat plants on a daily basis. A lot of mammals eat plants, and our water-based digestive system is pretty good at opening those things up. When it comes to fungi, they have this chitin cell wall, which is much more difficult to open. So normally a water-based extraction is only extracting about 5% of those compounds for bioavailability. So what's important is that we have a external extraction process similar to fermenting yogurt or kimchi to really maximize the bioavailability of the compounds inside. So we use UAE extraction because we're looking at results of some labs that we work with of over 90% bioavailability versus maybe 5%. So it makes a big difference if you're getting shiitake as a food or as a food supplement. And the extraction technology is what you want to look at. Most companies on the market are utilizing alcohol and water, and that's a dual extract. And this is somewhere around 50% bioavailability. So the alcohol is acting as a solvent, dissolving that chitin cell wall. But of course, it takes a long time. Many companies don't wait for that, a few months that it would take, and hence the bioavailability is down. If we compare UAE versus other extraction methods, which I just kind of went through, on the right, you can see some results from some HPLC analysis. So this is like the frequency of various compounds in the final mixture. On the top, you can see UAE or ultrasonic assisted extraction having much higher mountain peaks of those various compounds. So mainly that's showing that the bioavailable compounds are higher in UAE versus these other type of extraction technology. So yep, for us, it's important that we monitor everything that we do for the highest quality. Most of our competition for products is from China, and we'll never compete on price. For us as a company, we'll always be able to compete on quality. So again, just if we take a look at just a summary of UAE versus conventional extraction, UAE is going to just be much more bioavailability. So you'll see that there's more beta glucans, more triterpenoids, more nucleic acids. And all those are going to come from a more technical extraction process like UAE. It's the same for bioavailability. So not only will there be more material open in the liquid or in the powder that you're going to receive at the end, but that what you take is going to be more bioavailable. So most of our product line, especially the powders, daily recommended dose is about 1 gram, but for us, half a gram is equivalent. It's the same. So one jar of our product is at least 2 months supply for the same price as a 1 month supply of another competitor. Other thing to look for, and this is not so popular yet in Europe, but it's becoming quite big in North America, are what's called myceliated grains. So it's important we take just a minute and talk about what is a mushroom. Mushroom is like a scientific, let's say, name for the fruiting body of fungi. So when you think of shiitake mushroom, you think of exactly what this picture is, these mushrooms. And that's the fruiting body. So this is where all the compounds of interest are. Beta glucans are very high in fruiting bodies. Secondary metabolites are very high in fruiting bodies. 99% of all the scientific literature is looking at fruiting bodies. Mycelium, of course, would be then more of the, let's say, stasis body of the living body of the fungi. It's a white, wispy kind of substance that's found in soil or in decomposing wood. And this is the form that fungi stays in until it makes a fruiting body, which is a very complex form of its being. And mycelium itself has some interesting compounds. It does have beta glucans, and also does have some arenacin compounds for lion's mane, which are good for brain health. We'll talk about that later. But what's important to note is that if your product is mycelium on grain, or what they call full spectrum or biomass, mushroom biomass, this is actually about 95, 99% grain. It's not even actually mycelium. So the product that you're taking is more like tempeh. It's not a food supplement at all, and very high in alpha glucans or starch. Basically, not an interesting thing to take. A little bit more about it. So regulatory authorities, both in Europe and the FDA in the US, are very clear that these products cannot be called mushrooms, and that the custom, basically manufacturers or brands that are kind of mislabeling this stuff are subject to fines. Process for these mushrooms versus myceliated grain is really the core reason why companies are doing this. So if you look at the stage at the top, which is what we do, along with other companies that are working with fruiting bodies and proper extraction, it's much more complex. So the myceliated grain process basically skips a whole bunch of stuff. So what we're doing is we're taking these petri dishes, which has the isolated strain on it growing in mycelium. We're cutting a piece of that out. We're putting that on grain. We're using that grain to colonize wood. Then the wood is growing. Then the mushroom mycelium is growing through that wood. And then it's producing mushrooms, the fruiting body. We cut those off, quality control, dry them, grind them, extract them, freeze dry them, quality test, final product. So these companies that are working with mycelium and grain are more skipping a lot of those steps. So they're just going petri dish to grain colonization. This steps takes about maybe 1 week, and then grinding those, so no extraction at all, and then putting those right into powder capsules. The whole process from myceliated grain might take a week max. For us, maybe it's 3-4 months. So yeah, it's just saving money. And if you look at products that are not standardized to medicinal compounds, such as beta glucans or secondary metabolites, usually those products are myceliated grain. And the reason they're not standardized to any, because they don't have any compounds in them. So if you've tried mushrooms before and you haven't felt anything or hasn't worked for you, most likely what you're using is an inferior product that is mainly grain. So what do we stand for at Kappa, and what are brands that you should be working with and utilizing their products? You should be looking at companies that use 100% fruiting bodies, not mycelium and grain. You should look at companies that are being transparent with you about their process and how they're looking at growing these mushrooms and extracting them. And then, of course, how the bioavailable is the final material. So if it's only a dual extract, maybe you're paying a bit too much. So, okay, now we talked about, how to select the right medicinal mushrooms, but why do you want to take mushrooms as a supplement anyway? And how are they helpful for you, and what are they good for? So basically, we have a problem these days, like always. And what the problem that we have right now is we mostly live in cities. We mostly live in very sterile environments. We're mostly pretty stressed out human beings. We have a lot of pressure from work. Same for me as a founder of a startup. And we're working like hell. And yeah, our immune system is what's taking a toll. So we're using coffee and lack of sleep and a bunch of crazy stuff to kind of get through the day. Of course, the solution here is the natural approach, which is to really capitalize on what our bodies have co-evolved with to manage our immune system, and really that mushrooms plays a big role there. So our immune system isn't necessarily great at self-monitoring, right? We have a lot of long-term inflammation in our bodies. Probably everyone listening to this understands that very well, as we're all biohackers. Cancer is growing in all of our bodies all the time that our immune system's dealing with. Sometimes that gets out of control. Long-term inflammation exists for most people. Our immune system is not clearing that out. Autoimmune disease is also very high due to the sterile environments that we grow up in. And I think, you know, our immune system has a tough time regulating that. So beta-glucans are what are called mushrooms are adaptogenic or immunomodulatory, and that all basically is down to the compound called beta-glucans that's in the cell wall of fungi, and very extracted in a food supplement type product, medicinal mushroom product. So these beta-glucans are pretty incredible. So what is the mechanism of action? So there's two main types of beta-glucan. Two main mechanisms of action for these beta-glucans. So they can definitely be modifying cell receptors, and they can be activating your immune system. So they're looking at cytokines, macrophages. They're able to help really immunomodulate a lot of your immune system there. We even found beta-glucans in the tips of human fingers. So they're seeking out areas of your body that need a little bit more attention and focus there. And the nice thing about beta-glucans from fungi is, this is getting kind of nerdy, but they have a branching structure called 1316. And a 1316 beta-glucan, as opposed to an algae-based beta-glucan, is much longer and more complex, and is, yeah, because of this branching structure, it interacts with your immune system much more. So that's why we're so focused on fungal derived beta-glucans, or 1316 branching structure beta-glucans, as opposed to like a beta-glucan from oat or something else like that. Okay, so what biohacks do beta-glucans give us? So they're prebiotic, dietary fiber for our gut bacteria. They promote healthy gut bacteria. They're obviously adaptogenic immunomodulators, like we just spoke about. So influencing cytokines, macrophages, killer T cells in your body to just kind of do their job properly. And yeah, of course, yeah, BRMs via cell macrophage activation as well. And the nice thing about beta-glucans is you can find these pretty much in every mushrooms. So everything that we're going to talk about, chaga, reishi, lion's mane, shiitake, you know, any real medicinal mushroom product that you look at are going to have high levels of beta-glucans. They're, you know, immunomodulatory fungi, adaptogenic fungi is kind of taken for granted now. So they're going to be present in everything. Yeah, so again, just think about beta-glucans from mushrooms as being anti-inflammatory, antiviral, decreasing neuroplastic activity. So just generally making you healthier. And I think it's a good way to think about it is that, you know, you have to have a bit of, you know, hermetic effect for your body to survive. And I think, you know, beta-glucans are kind of going in your body and really shaking it up a little bit and suppressing your immune system if it's overactive, or, you know, telling it to get to work if it's underactive. And this is a good thing just to take on a daily basis. I'm taking chaga and lion's mane myself every single morning with my coffee, just to kind of keep my immune system in check. Okay, so yes, adaptogens, very important, have been a part of human diet for, you know, millions of years. I think the oldest human ever found is Otzi. He was found in the northern Tyrol of Italy, the mountains there, and basically they found this this guy with two adaptogenic mushrooms, one around his neck in a necklace and one in his pocket. So I think humans have been biohacking our immune system and co-evolving with our immune system and co-evolving with fungi since we have been around. So this is nothing new. It's just now becoming more, let's say, knowledgeable and known about. So again, just to stress the point, adaptogens are basically keeping our body on medium, not too high, not too low, and they're helping kind of even out our let's say, different stress responses. Okay, so now we got to think a little bit about other fungi, right? So, okay, sorry, skipping ahead. Now we're going to go into, let's say other fungi that our company works with. So the next one we're going to talk about is a problem with aging. So I think we all are a little bit interested in longevity. Me especially, I don't mind. I don't need to live till I'm 150, but if I can live till I'm 85 and then still skateboarding and running around at 84, then I'm a happy man. So I'm very interested in a quality of life. That's important for me. And one of the problems that we have is a mechanism for aging is these free radicals in our body. So stress, alcohol, contamination from breathing air that's bad, all this can kind of lead to free radicals kind of just floating around our body. And these free radicals are quite destructive. They just slam into whatever they slam into, and that breaks. So that's one of the reasons why our cells age. But importantly, if these free radicals hit DNA or RNA, every one of our organs, including our skin, also our hair, teeth, eyes, everything is sort of regenerating all the time. So between 1 year, 7 years, depending on the organ, the cells are renewing themselves. And if the DNA or RNA is damaged from free radicals slamming into it, well, then it's not going to regenerate or refresh itself properly. And that's one of the forms of aging. So over time, our organs deteriorate, our hair, of course, as well, our teeth, our skin, everything, eyes. And one of the reasons for this deterioration is obviously free radicals. So one thing we can do to neutralize that is actually antioxidants. And antioxidants can basically join with that free radical and neutralize it. So chaga is what we call the king of antioxidants. So it's there to basically to protect and support DNA mainly. Obviously, high in beta glucans as well, immunoadaptogenic, good for your against chronic inflammation, this kind of thing. But I'd say most biohackers and most people who take our products are really looking at the antioxidant levels. Okay, so everything has antioxidants, right? So blueberries are very high in antioxidants. We know acacia berries are very high in antioxidants. So let's actually look at that. So the ORAC value, which is a way to test the antioxidant capacity of a material, is with blueberries, for instance, about 2,400. Acacia berries, I've seen up to 6,000. Chaga, 250,000. So when we start really looking at, where do we get super high levels at a good price point of antioxidants, if we were going to have a high antioxidant regime, which is recommended by pretty much all the leading biohackers, then chaga is really best bang for your buck here. And a properly extracted, properly concentrated extract powder is really the way to go. Again, also has beta glucans, like I mentioned too, and has very interesting antioxidant compounds coming usually from the birch tree. So chaga is one of the mushrooms that's actually parasitic to the birch tree. So it's actually growing just in the wild here in Finland. And we have a team that's up in Lapland, northern Finland, actually harvesting this for us. So yeah, again, risk factors for free radicals development is the ozone, pesticides, cleaners, cigarette smoke, radiation pollution, pretty much everything that most people are exposed to on a daily basis, especially if you live in a city. So I think it's a good way to kind of protect your body. I give it to my children as well. Yeah, and of course, there's also some good papers listing this phenomena. So I think it's pretty well noted that, to protect our RNA and DNA, protect our cellular and tissue damage, high antioxidants are quite important. And just to hit the point a bit harder, you could take a look at this, ORAC value for chaga versus other things, and it's just up there. It's just there's nothing that really compares. Sorry. Okay. So one of the most interesting mushrooms that we sell, probably it's the leading seller that we have, or the second leading seller, is dealing with a very important problem of neurodegeneration. So one thing that's important to think about is that when we're children, and as we're born, we basically have a high levels of compound in our brain called NGF, or nerve growth factor. And nerve growth factor is crucial for neuroplasticity. It allows neuro regeneration, neuroplasticity, learning, being able to hardwire new thoughts and new skills. And when you hit about 30, NGF starts to kind of drop off until you die. It doesn't really come back again. And this is characterized by, we have a lot of sayings for this, like your mind gets a bit older, you get a bit more rigid in your thinking. A lot of that just comes from lack of NGF. And NGF has been studied quite heavily for this over the last like almost 100 years. I think back in the 50s, so it's at 80 years. So 80 years they've been studying this NGF and this kind of phenomena. So okay, easy, right? So solution is basically we just want to supplement NGF. So that's easy enough. We also supplement spermidine. We also supplement vitamin D, things that we're lacking in our bodies, no problem. We supplement NGF. And this Rita Levy, she was the one who basically in about the 50s, basically started looking at NGF and got an actual Nobel Prize for it, 86, for her work there. And she was actually taking NGF as a droplets for her eye. Well, started out, she was actually shooting herself in the eye with a needle because NGF doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. So you can't take an NGF pill and have it cross the blood-brain barrier and then exist in your brain. You actually need to find a way to get that directly into your brain. And that's one of the reasons that she was taking this injection into her eyeball, or later she developed these eye drops. And of course, that's a very important thing to do. But you don't really see a lot of NGF supplements on the market. You can't Google that and find it. Because again, the problem is, eye drops are how long do they last? Do they go rancid? And do people really enjoy putting that in their eye daily? Probably not. So you just don't see a lot of that. So how do we get more NGF? Basically lion's mane. So I'm sure you've heard of lion's mane. I'm sure that's interesting for you. And to be honest, as I mentioned earlier, chaga and lion's mane is what I take daily. Chaga for antioxidants and lion's mane for this NGF support, so neurogenesis. Basically, if you think about it very briefly and quickly, it's to protect and upgrade your brain. And I'm 30, what am I now? 36. So, my NGF levels have been going down for some years already. So what does lion's mane do? Well, it has some interesting compounds, both erinacines and hericenones, which can stimulate it can cross the blood-brain barrier and stimulate NGF in our brains up to 8 times. So NGF stimulation is very important. And what that's doing is NGF is responsible for reduction of amyloid beta plaque buildup. And probably all of you know somebody in your family or a friend of a family who is suffering with dementia. And dementia is mainly caused from too much amyloid beta plaque buildup. So lion's mane is actually able to help remove amyloid beta plaque. We've got 20 human clinical trials showcasing that, and also lots and lots of in vivo trials with mice, where they've given lion's mane in a sample set of the population and actually opened those brains up and studied the amyloid beta plaque and saw the reduction. So there's a pretty highly suggestive correlation there. NGF is also responsible for neuroregeneration. So we've been able to see that by increasing NGF levels in human brains, we can stop this slow decline of brain cells when we hit 30, and we can start to regenerate those actually. So here's a little bit of just like zoomed in showing how these amyloid beta plaques can be removed from NGF. So yeah, you can take a look also what happens when, if you take a look at the bottom, what happens with a control versus a NGF stimulated brain. So massively more neural connections, massively more neurons seeking out neural connections. It's a very important chemical for the brain. So again, these bioactive secondary metabolites in lion's mane are really supportive for they're very neuroprotective, neuroregenerative, and increasing NGF and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which is also very important. And I mean, obviously the rabbit hole of this being in low levels in your brain, depression, I mean, it's not fun. So if we want a high quality of life, taking a daily lion's mane supplement, I think, is a pretty important decision to make. Okay, well, here we go. So this guy looks like he's trying to sleep, but his eyes are wide awake and his hands are up in desperation. It doesn't look so happy. And of course, this is a black and white photo, so you know that it's kind of not so good. So we're drawing an emotional reaction here. And basically this guy is a bit sad and angry because he's not able to get good night's sleep. And that affects a majority of adults, actually, adult humans in the planet, that we just can't get a good night's sleep. We lay down and, we have these outer rings, which tell us how our sleep was. And you wake up in the morning, you look at it, and it's just kind of depressing how bad it was. So lack of sleep can lead to a whole host of problems, including depression, fuzzy thinking. And what we also understand is that for proper neuroplasticity to exist, you need to have two things need to be present. So not only do you really need to focus really hard on learning a new skill or studying something, and like chess, you need to study openings, and you need to really play some chess and read about mid-game strategy. But you also need to have deep restorative sleep at night. And deep restorative sleep is actually where those things that you learn during the day are actually neurologically wired in your brain. So if you don't have that deep restorative sleep, it just doesn't work. You never codify the things that you've learned. And there's a study released in 2020 that probably many of you know, this Huberman Labs podcast. He talks about it a lot, Huberman. And in 2020, they found that just a 20-minute nap after an intense learning protocol could increase neuroplasticity. That's all you need, 20 minutes of just deep restorative sleep, moment for your brain, just to codify what you just learned. So if we're not getting deep sleep every night, if it's under 2 hours of deep sleep every night, you're not getting enough deep sleep and you're not codifying everything new that you've learned. And this just, then you're running around in circles. You're not actually achieving much of anything. So to me, this is quite a big problem. As you guessed it, the solution is fungi. that's the take that we have. No, come on. I mean, there's many solutions to get better sleep, but one of those partners or allies, biohacks for your sleep is reishi. Something I don't take every day. My sleep is actually generally pretty good. I have a lot of, I had the blue light blockers, and I turn off all the lights in my house for the kids and for my wife to just kind of calm down. And I light candles. So we have that kind of natural lighting starting about an hour or two before we go to bed. And, we put the screens away, and, generally I get pretty good sleep. But if I'm traveling, or if I'm working late, or if I'm drinking a little bit of alcohol, occasionally, reishi is very helpful for those moments, just to biohack a good night's sleep and to ensure basically a good night's sleep. So I always kind of carry a bottle around. And what is reishi really responsible for? So generally what it's doing is it's reducing hypertension and stress. It's activating what's called our parasympathetic nervous system. And if you think about our nervous system, we have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, or parasympathetic is kind of our rest and digest, and the sympathetic is kind of our flight or flight. And a lot of times we live in this fight or flight nervous system We're pretty stressed out. We're in a city, huge amount of stimulus all the time. It's pretty overwhelming. And yeah, we just are used to that, which is crazy to think about. Just totally used to that. And reishi is able to activate the other side, the parasympathetic nervous system. So what is it doing? It's activating GABA receptors in our brain. It's also actually working with our gut microbiome to increase 5-HT production. So that's serotonin. So it's really helping us get into this sleep mode. But also, if you just need to meditate, if you're too stressed out, if you need to quickly get onto a new calendar, if you're traveling, it's a good ally. Also, of course, very adaptogenic for your immune system. It's very helpful for that as well. High in beta glucans, and of course does some other stuff too. I mean, it supports antioxidative stress. There are some studies around caloric. It mediates weight with caloric restriction. It's good for your blood. So generally, reishi is kind of an all-around tonic. I think in Chinese traditional literature, it's called the king of medicinal mushrooms, and mainly because back then it was so rare to find that when it was found, it was basically only given to the king. Thankfully, now we can grow it, and we grow it here in our factory, the fungi factory. Which, if you're ever in Finland, you're more than welcome. Drop me a message. Come take a tour. So, okay, beta glucans, of course, as well, but also these nice ganodermic acids and interesting compounds as well. So again, the quotes around insomnia are pretty crazy. So people are having some serious difficulties in sleeping, which is resulting in low satisfaction or low quality of life, depression, impaired work performance, just generally suckiness of living. And the treatment for this right now are pretty crazy. SSRIs or benzos. Yeah. Not so good. Lots of interesting side effects. And something like melatonin, which is used to support good sleep, is really only affecting, let's say, one neuro channel in our brains. Whereas something like reishi is really affecting up to 50 different neurological pathways to support good sleep. So whereas, melatonin, you can get pretty, you can build up a resistance to it, and you can have a tough time with that. Reishi is, of course, not that way. So like I mentioned, yeah, stimulating GABA receptors, chilling you out, making a sedative effect. And also, yeah, increasing 5-HT production. So it's a good mushroom if you know how to use it. So this is where I think it's important to know a bit deeper about these mushrooms, because many people go, okay, reishi is good for my health, I'll take it. But you don't want to take it in the morning. You want to kind of get up and go. You don't want to take it in the morning. You want to take it at night. And my recommendation is about an hour before you go to bed. So you can take like a little glass of water. You can open up your reishi bottle. You can squirt like, here, I'll show you. So you can take a little glass of water. You can open up the bottle. You can squeeze out, one full pipette, squeeze it in the water. You could take 2 or 3, depending on how bad your sleep really is, how much you need it. And just drink it. It's good for you. So these are the kind of different pathways that reishi is affecting in your brain. So 51 targeted genes related to sleep to date have been mapped and been affected by reishi supplementation. So I'll leave this up here just for a little bit so people can kind of look at it. But this is a pretty incredible gene map. So if we really think about, yeah, reishi is definitely our partner in sleep performance. And more than just sleep, without deep restorative sleep, your neurogenesis is really low. Neuroplasticity is very low. So you can hit yourself over the head all day long, try to learn new things or memorize stuff or meet new people and forget their names, or you can just suffer all day long. And if you don't get good sleep, then none of that will be wired. Alrighty. Last but not least, Sorry. Okay. Last but not least, another problem that we have. So one big issue is also this getting sick. Yeah, a little bit sickness, I think, is always kind of good. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and every time that, you know, if they're spending a few months without getting sick, I'm actually getting a little bit worried. And in the early stages of our immune development, getting sick is a good thing. It's really helping to evolve and adapt our immune system and build up resistance. And this is very important as we age. But at some point, dealing with those symptoms is not so fun, right? So getting a virus that comes in and being able to have your immune system deal with that very quickly, this is, of course, an important aspect. So again, solution is fungi, if you didn't guess that. Dun, dun, dun. And particular in this case, it's a fungi called shiitake. So if you want to think about shiitake, think about how it's just absolutely fantastic for hacking a sickness. So again, shiitake is mainly focused here on enhancing your immunity, lowering inflammation, of course, antioxidant qualities too. I mean, a lot of stuff, but generally the most interesting compound that I think is in shiitake is a compound there on the right, called this L-ergothioneine. And L-ergothioneine has been quite famous recently, actually. There was a company in California that actually listed some patents and got some patents for being able to extract L-ergothioneine from shiitakes and isolate it. So more of a pharmaceutical approach. But what they were able to find is that L-ergothioneine, and there's of course a lot of literature here. So it can actually, it's a cellular protectant. So, and you're not going to find it from plants or animals. So it's a cell protectant. So it's actually strengthening cell walls. So what that means is that if you've got a virus that comes into your body, one of the first things it does is it gets into your cell and starts to replicate itself again and again and again. So you might only have, I don't know, tens or hundreds or thousands of viruses that get into your body, but then they start to replicate massively. And that's called a viral load. So your viral load starts to go up. It takes always a day to 7 days, depending how healthy you are, for your immune system to kick in and start fighting that. By the time your immune system kicks in, depending where that viral load is, if it's really low, no problem. Maybe you don't even notice that you're sick. You never have any symptoms. You never feel that kind of like tiredness. Your body's telling you to like lay down, or you don't have a fever or coughing or mucus or anything. You're just kind of like, you don't even notice. But if the viral load is very high and your immune system kicks in, well, it's going to take more time to fight off that virus infection. And that's precisely how bad your symptoms can be. So do you get sick for 1 day or a week normally? And that's usually a pretty good indication of how healthy your immune system is. But one thing shiitake can do, and I always travel with a bottle, the first feeling of getting those sickness feelings, like the absolute first time, probably all of you are thinking you have a protocol for that. Usually it involves overdosing vitamin D, taking a lot of vitamin C, maybe some zinc, maybe there's some other echinacea you might take too. I mean, there's other things that people do. Mine is mainly Z and zinc and vitamin D, a little bit extra vitamin D. But now I've also started in the past couple of years incorporating shiitake after these findings. So if we can strengthen the cell walls so that the viruses, when they come in, they can't actually hijack your cell and replicate themselves, then the viral load will be lower when your immune system kicks in, and the symptoms won't be so bad. So the idea here really is around shiitake that it's the first response to a sickness. So anyway, this is just kind of nerdy style, really going through how it's sort of strengthening those cell walls and how that sort of process is working. But basically, L-ergothioneine is a fantastic way of doing that. And when we just think about like why fungi are so interesting for this kind of immunostimulatory, they're really focusing on the immune system. Why is that? It's mainly because we're more closely related to fungi than plants, which is a fantastic thing to think about. So on the tree of evolution, You know, our DNA and our bodies are more closer to fungi than plants. And you can see that in the immune system. So we both breathe in oxygen and release CO2, just like fungi. And we also have a very similar immune system. We have similar viruses that attack fungi and humans still to this day. And so for that reason, fungi have developed a lot of interesting chemicals that help support their immune systems. And the nice thing is we can actually use those too. So in a way, shiitake and mushrooms in general are like little pharmaceutical factories that we've outsourced. And if we understand this biotech space well enough, this biohacking space well enough, we can apply those hacks to help our bodies. Okay, that's what I've got for you today. I really appreciate you being here and listening to the whole thing. And I hope that you learned a little bit about fungi and about how and when you should use it appropriately. We only touched on 4 major species today, just due to time. But of course, our company works with like 7 different species and always new ones coming out all the time. So I'd say, yeah, get in contact with me. There's my email address even at the bottom there. So I'll just pause it on this page. You can take a note, take that down. Definitely send me an email. You know, tell me how things have worked for you. If you have any more specific questions, anything we can do to help, that's what we're here for. So Kappa Biotech, we have a team of 34 employees now. And we're just every day like Santa's little elves, you know, making mushroom tinctures and growing mushrooms and drying them and extracting them and grinding them. So anything and like I mentioned before too, I mean, if you ever find yourself in Finland, where our factory is about an hour outside of Helsinki, we happily give a little tour and show you how things go. So nothing else. Upgrade your water with fungi, upgrade your bodies with fungi, and I'll see you around.